cool gimmick.
Alright guys, I'm here back with more Mass Effect 2. I'm actually in the process of watching my 2020 year in gaming video that just came out, so whatever. But also, obviously, just gonna continue on Mass Effect 2. We're at the point now where we've done, I think, pretty much all the side content, at least everything that like matters. So, well, I guess we should do this area, right?
Story, you have to very much rely on the villains within the game, and Watch Dogs just has.
But yeah, I mean, we've pretty much
generic evil CEO-esque figures, and because that just narratively, this game completely falls flat.
I need more
and from a gameplay perspective, it's just more of Watch Dogs 2.
Not gonna bother.
But even possibly
there's that many planets.
I mean, I will say that like recruiting different NPCs and these NPCs all having
so we just have loyalty missions to do.
There were points where like you had to juggle around between NPCs on how to approach a certain level, because like some NPCs had some things that would make.
By the way, it's funny that I talked about Watch Dogs Legion longer than any other game
when the entire game
on this video
around just that, I don't feel like it makes this turn out to be a good product. Plus, also, I mean, I think we have to add in the fact that this game is extremely glitchy. This game has a lot of technical issues. There were a lot of frame rate drops and a lot of screen tearing. I mean, pretty much almost any time I would be driving around the open world, there was some semblance of screen tearing. So again, I just couldn't justify playing this game any higher when there's not really any semblance of a real narrative. The open world is harmed by the technical issues within the game, and the recruitment system really just comes off as hollow at the end of the day.
We're at 30 minutes.
Not enough to really support.
Yeah, video is performing.
Because that Watch Dogs Legion has to land here number 6.
I mean, that's what you would expect it to be like.
We have a game that I would consider just slightly better than Watch Dogs, in the sense that it at least has a story.
We'll see. We'll see when the comparison comes up.
Outside of that, I have many of the same issues with this game, in that it's Mafia Definitive Edition. Now, Mafia is a series that I have never touched before, and it's fine. I mean, again, like Watch Dogs Legion, the open world is a bit of a mess. There's a lot of technical issues within this game. Gameplay-wise, actually, just like strict gameplay, I would say.
Do we have to go back here?
Probably better. I mean, like, I feel like I enjoyed the combat sections within that game more than Mafia. However, the thing I will give a leg up to Mafia in is the fact that there is at least a story. I do think the character of Tommy Angelo is at least a likable figure in this game. Now, I have a lot of issues with the story and how half-baked it is. I don't feel like the characters...
Yeah, I fucked up in the editing there.
...are as developed as I would like them to be.
This is my third time watching this video. It's like playing I did fuck that up.
At least it has a story. At least it tries to tell a story. And while it has many of the same issues that I do have with Watch Dogs Legion, I feel like at least Mafia does have somewhat solid protagonist to really bolster it up a bit. So because that Mafia Definitive Edition ends up landing here at number 15. Number 14 is a game that I'm actually surprised is even this high on the list, considering how much backlash there was towards this game. But I will say, I came out of this game actually enjoying it, and that is Marvel's Avengers. Now, this is a disclaimer I have to give for this game.
Okay, so again, this is all the stuff we have.
I've only played the single player. This is an assessment
there's a lot of shit
on the single player of the game.
I think the approach we're gonna take,
I mean, there were points within this game, especially
at this point, is go here,
Uncharted-like. This feels very
then go all the way around.
Experience. I know that the creative director for this
I feel like that should be good. Go there and then go around. And save this for last, obviously, because that's the main story.
But you can tell that they're going for that sort of vibe early on, where you have this story of Kamala Khan and her going out and trying to get the Avengers back together after the disaster that happens at the beginning of the game. And
let's go.
That's an interesting part of the game. The problem is that the middle section of the game turns into essentially what the multiplayer is, where you have
so we gotta do all these
combat
planets
sections where you can play as one of the Avengers, and you just have to infiltrate this base and get a certain thing from inside a restricted area, and like that's just boring. And that's really what dumbs this game down, because again, by the end of the game, you get back to that Naughty Dog-esque gameplay that you see at the beginning of the game. With that said, I mean, like, even though I did enjoy the beginning and the end of the game, it's like, at the end of the day, it's like the combat system is still pretty shallow. It just feels like a really generic beat-em-up. Did not feel like that was particularly great. And then also, even if this was a full-blown single-player experience, it's still not a masterpiece by any means. Like, even if it was not harmed by that bloat in the middle, I do think it would probably still only be like number 9 or number 10 on this list. Like, it wouldn't be that great of a game. So because of that, at the end of the day, I had to land it here at number 14. Now number
Purdue University Global. Apply now at purdueglobal.edu.
Probe launched.
Make it granola. Satisfying enough for a bear, clean enough to be naked. Bear naked. Feed your bear.
number 13, we're moving on to a game that I think is definitely the most polished out of the games that we've talked about so far. But it's also just a game that, again, is not really for me, and that's kind of why I struggled with where to land this. But at number 13, I did put Immortals Phoenix Rising. Now, this is a game that, again, I think is technically definitely a better game than Avengers.
Wait, how are we still at 30 probes?
Like, it is a better game. But
Did we increase the amount of probes we can carry?
I just didn't enjoy playing.
I didn't pay attention to that until now.
Games, like, I did not
That must have been the
really
case,
enjoy
right?
my time with Immortals Phoenix Rising. I mean, it is for the most part.
I think we're good. I don't know.
Open world
Really
action adventure game that has a kind of just meh combat system. There's a lot of puzzles.
Oh, we can have
in
60
that. I mean,
now.
like, some of them I did find fun, but there were
Holy
also some
shit,
that
I didn't
find
realize that.
annoying. And there's a lot of annoying elements to the gameplay here, particularly with the endurance or stamina system, where climbing mountains will decrease your stamina, and sometimes you can get all the way to the top and just like run out of stamina and fall all the way back to the bottom. Like, and that's not fun. Like, I overall just didn't have that much fun with this game, but I do think it is technically a better game than the games we've already talked about. It is developed by Ubisoft Quebec, who is a studio that has
Scarred me for life.
with Assassin's Creed Odyssey. But I do feel like Immortals feels like the game that they want to make. Like, you can clearly tell when making Odyssey that they don't want to be making an Assassin's Creed game. They want to be making a game like this. And you can clearly tell when playing this game that you can see that they had more passion for this game than they did with Odyssey. But for Immortals Phoenix Rising, it's like, while it does have similar issues here and there, I do think at the end of the day, it is a more polished experience. It is a game that does have more passion behind it, even though I do still think
do I have to
some of the team are
completely deplete it for...
So it's kind of a mixed bag for me. It's not really a game I enjoyed playing, but it is a game I do think is a better game than the ones we've talked about. But it's also just not a game that I can justify putting that much higher on the list, so it's here at number 13. Now at number 12, we're on to the only game on this list that I did not play on a Sony console here, as this game is not on a Sony console, as it is a Microsoft exclusive, and it is the other game developed by Dontnod from the year of 2020, and that is Tell Me Why. And I will say that Tell Me Why is essentially what I wanted from Twin Mirror. I mean, Twin Mirror as a whole, again, comes off as a really dull, boring experience, really just an uninspired adventure game. I feel like Tell Me Why feels like a spiritual successor to Life is Strange. It feels like a story that could be in the Life is Strange universe if they really wanted it to be. It does have a bit of a supernatural element, kind of similar to Life is Strange. It does have this story based around the relationship between these two characters that the story revolves around, and it does tell a somewhat compelling mystery story that I do feel like was missing from something like a Life is Strange 2.
Oh yeah, I guess the comparison's probably up, isn't it? Yeah, let's see what it is. It's probably number 9. It is. I would have liked for it to do a little bit better, but whatever. It's matching my last list video right now, which is probably not great because that probably means it's probably gonna slip to number 10.
I just found this experience to be a mostly kind of just fine one. Again, like, it's a fine game, a fine story, but not one that is going to be etched in my brain as much as the original Life is Strange is. At the end of the day, I did land it here at number 12. Now, number 11 is a game that, this was a tough game to assess because it's so dumb and it's so plagued with issues, but I just had so much fun playing this game. So at number 11, we do have Man-Eater, which is an open world action RPG where you play as a shark. And it's so much fun. Like, I had so much fun playing this game, despite the fact that I dislike so much of what this game does. Like, this is an open world RPG where the way that the game progresses is that it gives you a list of tasks to complete within the open world, and essentially you're just completing random objectives around the open world without much context in the game. Like, there is no real story here. I mean, there is, but it's like, who cares about the story here? You're just randomly given these missions to, okay, kill a whole bunch of people on the beach, or kill like 10 turtles in this area, or like just random objectives like this that don't matter to anything. But I still found this game so fun. Now, another thing that does plague this game is technical issues. This game runs terribly on PS4. So many frame rate issues, so many lag issues, so many screen tearing issues. I mean, there's issues with the auto lock system where like there's certain times where like you push the button to attack and like for some reason it just completely misses the target. And it's really annoying, but I still had so much fun with this game. It's a ridiculous game. It's a game that I shouldn't like. Again, it feels very much like a parody of this open world action RPG genre that I've grown accustomed to, but because of that, it also makes it very appealing to me. It's not a masterpiece, it's a very flawed game, but it is a game that I had so much fun with, and because of that alone, I decided to put it here at number 11. Now number 10, it's a game that has so much controversy wrapped around it, and I was definitely a lot more positive on it at the time of its release, but I do think as time has gone on, my opinion has slowly soured more and more, and that game is Cyberpunk 2077. And I talked about this in my spoiler review that I ended up doing. Cyberpunk is a game that I feel like I liked despite of itself. Obviously, it is a game that has massive glitches throughout the entire game. I did play this on a base PS4, which is the worst possible way to experience it. But then again, I don't feel like I came across as many issues as many other people. I just had like a couple graphical issues, had some times where things weren't loading in properly, like things that are bad, obviously, but things that didn't really harm my overall experience, especially when I really just rushed through the main story of the game. And I will say that main story is pretty good. I do think the main story of this game, the story that revolves around V and Johnny Silverhands, like that stuff is pretty strong. You do have some really great side characters within this game. The problem is that, again, the narrative works, but the gameplay doesn't. And really, even if it did fully function as intended, I don't feel like it's even a game that would be that high on the list. I think at the end of the day, it is really just a Fallout clone. It is a Fallout game with the aesthetic of Cyberpunk. So again, I definitely have positives to say about Cyberpunk, but at the end of the day, it does come off as a big disappointment, but I feel like its strong narrative and the fact that I didn't absolutely hate my time with it was enough for me to land it here at number 10, despite all of its flaws. Now number...
Watch drumming tutorials without Wi-Fi and jam uninterrupted. Try YouTube Premium on us.
It's a burger made from plants. Right?
America's favorites made from plants.
Number 9. At number 9, we have a game that felt very nostalgic to me. I feel like while this game might not be exactly what I'm personally looking for anymore in a game, I just had so much fun playing this game. And again, that is Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 1 and 2. Now, I'm a massive fan of the Tony Hawk series from when I was a kid. Mind you, I didn't play the games until around the time of Underground 2. Played a lot of the original Underground, played a lot of American Wasteland, played a lot of Project 8. And while I did play Pro Skaters 1, 2, 3, it's like I didn't really get into that style of game. But playing these remakes
Was there really no anomalies in the system? That's really weird.
Really fun.
I mean, there's at least
it felt
one.
fun to play these more modernized versions of those games. And while like the game structure is not the ideal for me, again, I would rather be playing Underground or American Wasteland or even Pro Skater 4. It was still a lot of fun to be playing a Tony Hawk game again, now modernized for the modern audience. Like I do feel like this game just felt like fun, and it felt really nostalgic to me. Again, like it's not a masterpiece, a game that's
Alright, I guess
on
we're just doing this
a
now.
scale as many of the games that we'll be talking about later down the road, but it is just genuinely a fun game, and does take me back to the games I enjoyed when I was younger. And because I do feel like I have to give Tony Hawk's 1 and 2 here the credit for doing so, putting it at number 9 here on the list. Now number 8. At number 8 is a game that I'm kind of surprised is this high, mainly because I heard so many negative things about this remake when it came out, but I ended up really enjoying it, and that is Resident Evil.
I guess we'll take Grunt with
remake.
us.
Now,
Because, like, we're gonna
obviously
eventually
came out last year,
use
and I
him.
had that relatively high on my list. The problem with Resident Evil 2, though, and really the problem with Resident Evil games in general, is that, again, they're not games for me. I'm not big into
trophy.
survival horror games.
Oh, I think
but
we're filling
I
out one of
cannot
those
deny that Resident
skills.
Evil 2 is a perfectly made game. And now, here, jumping into Resident Evil 3, I might even say I think I enjoyed my experience with this game more than I did Resident Evil 2. Again, Resident Evil 2 is the better game. I think that without a doubt. However, Resident Evil 3 for me, again, with it being a shorter game, I think because I was able to enjoy it a lot more. I do think Resident Evil 2 went on not necessarily too long, but again, like for me to be playing a survival horror game, I don't like the level of uneasiness I feel throughout the game. And having that over the course of the 18 9-hour experience can be a bit much for me, while Resident Evil 3 here, which was only a 5-hour experience, I felt like it felt a lot more satisfying for me as a whole. Again, like at the end of the day, I mean, it mostly is the same for Resident Evil 2. Gameplay-wise, you can definitely tell they reused a lot of assets. Narratively, it's not nearly on the scale of Resident Evil 2. And really just feels like a thing where they were like, well, we already have the engine, we already have the assets, we might as well just do it. And like, I get that people can be underwhelmed by that, but I personally did still enjoy my experience of Resident Evil 3 Remake. So it does land here at number 8. Now at number 7, we're moving on to a game that I think I've grown an appreciation for over time. I think when I originally played it, I was kind of just a bit underwhelmed by it. But I do think as time has gone on, my opinion of it has slightly gone up, and that is Marvel's Spider-Man Miles Morales, which is more of Spider-Man 2018. I mean, for the most part, it is kind of the same game. I mean, most of the gameplay elements are exactly the same. There are obviously minor differences, most of those being attributed to Miles' personality and his differences from Peter Parker. But for the most part, it is a very similar game. But that's not necessarily a bad thing. Again, I obviously really like Spider-Man 2018, and while I definitely have my issues with it, it's still a game I overall really enjoy. I mean, I think it is a really fun, open-world Spider-Man game, and I feel like Miles Morales does the same thing, but obviously on a much lesser scale. The narrative is on a much smaller scale, being a more personal story to Miles, which I do think actually works pretty well. I do think, while there are elements of it that do feel kind of ridiculous in the sense that, like, Peter's
is Rex gonna show up
elsewhere, so Miles has to take care of the city the entire time, like, and that's kind of dumb. It very much just has those normal tropes of, like, a spin-off of, like, just having these dumb excuses for why the main
we'll just do whatever
really
comes up first. I'm not really,
it still was a really enjoyable experience. I think it really developed Miles' character. I think it had fun enough side content, kind of similar to the original game. I like, really at the end of the day, my opinion of this game is very similar to that of Spider-Man 2018, but just kind of lesser in the fact that it is obviously a smaller scaled game. But it is a really enjoyable experience as a whole. It is more of Spider-Man 2018, which is always great. So for me, it lands here at number 7. Now at number 6, and I will say that 5 and 6 here are interchangeable for me. It is very, very close, and I really struggle here with which one should be higher. Now, if you asked me like 6 months ago, I think the decision would have been very clear. However, I think as time has gone on, my opinion on one of these games has dropped significantly. However, I did not feel like it was enough to switch the placements, but again, they're so interchangeable, I don't think it really matters. But at number 6 here, we do have Ghost of Tsushima. And Ghost of Tsushima is a game that I initially was feeling really good about, but then by the time I finished the main story, my opinion of it did drop a bit, and then I did a replay of it immediately after I finished it the first time. My opinion of it dropped even more so, but kind of in the opposite way, where like the first time I played the game, I really enjoyed the gameplay, but I really just felt meh about its story. Then on the replay, I had the opposite effect, where I enjoyed its story a lot more, but I feel like the gameplay of it started to get really stale for me.
Rex is the leader of
And
this.
now, at the point that we're at now, where obviously it's almost nearing a year since the game came out, my opinion of it is kind of stabilized a bit, where I do feel like narratively, it is definitely better than what I initially assessed it as. I do think the story of Jin and the journey that he goes on is actually a really compelling story, even though I don't think it's told in the best way. I do feel like there are points within the story that does drag a bit, but I do think his overall arc over the course of the game is very strong. And I feel like gameplay-wise, there are some really great bits of gameplay here within this game. I do feel like the combat as a whole is pretty satisfying. The use of stealth is pretty strong as a whole. I will complain about the side content, though. I do feel like, even though I initially liked the side content, I think as time has gone on, I kind of realized how shallow a lot of it is, where it kind of gives you the illusion that it's this new thing, but then you kind of realize that they're just doing the same thing as almost every other open world game, but just like slightly differently. And I feel like the way that the side quests are structured within the game is
So this is the grunt
really
mission, I'm pretty sure.
So those are some issues I had here, but at the end of the day, Ghost of Tsushima is still a really great open world experience. It's essentially the Japanese Assassin's
we have to go to the
that
thing.
people have been wanting
So we need to go to
for
Rex
ages, and I
first.
do feel like it succeeds in what it tries to do, but I also feel like there are elements of it that do come off
That's Rex right there,
to
right?
me, so I did have it here at number 6. Now number 4.
You must wait till the clan leader summons you. He is. You know what tradition demands. Clan Erdnot must respond.
Number 5, and oh my god, it's so tough to assess this game now because when this game came out, I was riding on a high. I did feel like this game.
Yeah, Mass Effect 1 music again. I was actually paying attention.
Out of my... Shepard! My friend.
Yeah, I think that whenever I played Mass Effect 2, Rex was dead.
Should have known the Void couldn't hold you.
So I think this is the first time, or one of the first times at least, that I've had Rex alive.
Glad we didn't have to kill each other on Vermeer.
Thank you for explaining that.
You made the rise of Erdnot possible. Vermeer was a turning point for the Krogan, though not everyone was happy about it. Destroying Saren's genophage cure freed us from his manipulation. I used that to spur the clans to unify under Erdnot.
You abandoned many traditions to get your way. Dangerous.
Speak when spoken to, Uvenk. I'll drag your clan to glory whether it likes it or not. Now, Shepard, what brings you here? How's the Normandy?
Destroyed in the Collector surprise attack. I ended up spaced.
Well, you look good. Ah, the benefits of a redundant nervous system.
Yeah, humans don't have that.
Oh, it must have been painful then. But you're standing here, and you've got a strong new ship. Takes me back to the old days. Us against the unknown, killing it with big guns. Good times.
Sounds like you've got big changes ahead for the Krogan.
We are making a neutral ground where all clans are welcome. Fertile females can be shared among clans. We will strengthen the race as a whole.
You threaten everything that makes us strong. It will not last.
Maybe. Until then, you're lucky to be a part of it.
What's so important about maintaining individual clans?
Every clan has different customs, rites of passage, rules of behavior, battle songs, all unique. That diversity makes us great. No clan, not even mine, was meant to survive on its own.
Ah,
I hope that works well for your people.
Hashtag
But back to the reason I'm here.
Idiot.
We don't often allow
Better.
aliens to do business on Tuchanka, but you're an exception.
I'm looking for a Solarian. He was captured by the Blood Pack and brought here.
My scout commander can direct you. He's probably near the perimeter running target practice. Don't take too much of his time. I need a constant watch on the other clans.
Yeah.
Hard to form
I have a
to a
Krogan
degree
in my crew.
from what
He has
I
some kind of sickness
wanted
and needs
from
treatment.
Actually, I guess we'll pay attention to this again.
Where are you from, whelp? Was your clan destroyed before you could learn what is expected of you?
I have no clan. I was tank bred by Warlord Okir. My line distilled from Kredok, Moro, Shiagar.
You recite warlords, but you are the offspring of a syringe.
I am pure Krogan. You should be in awe.
Here's a very old name. A very hated name.
He is dead.
Of course. You're with Shepard. How could he be alive?
I need Grunt back up to speed. What's wrong with him?
There's nothing wrong with him. He's becoming a full adult.
Wait, puberty?
I don't care what aliens call it. Krogan undergo the rite of passage.
Too far, Rex. Your clan may rule, but this thing is not Krogan.
Idiot. So, Grunt, do you wish to stand with Erdnot?
What does the rite of passage require?
Not for me to say, Shepard. The shaman will discuss that.
You'll let a tank-bred Krogan join Clan Erdnot?
Only because he's with you. After all, You and I killed
from this
thousands of
series, a series that is very close to my
Quite as
heart. But as time has gone on,
Plan
my
is not
opinion
as
of this game
strong,
has
and the
soured
others
quite a
will do as
bit.
I say.
And again, there was a
They
massive
see
debate
the
for me
benefit of
over,
my vision.
is this better or worse than Ghost of Tsushima?
What
And
happens if he
I
doesn't
still
do this
decided
rite
it
of
was
passage?
better, but
You
again,
left
it's so
here.
hazy at this point.
You'd be killed.
And that game is
The
Assassin's
clan
Creed
lists are not
Valhalla.
respected.
It's so tough.
A
It's so
tank
tough
red,
because it's
probably
like,
more so.
I do think Ghost of Tsushima
His
is the
disposition
more
is
polished
what it
game. I
is,
do think Ghost of
right
Tsushima
or
is the
no.
game that knows what it's
That's
trying
just
to do
him
more
being
so
a
and
Krogan.
executes on it.
Ophir didn't
However,
tell you that in the
Assassin's
tank.
Creed is a series
Did
that
he,
is very
boy?
close to my heart. No matter how much they've ruined the franchise since then, I do still have
This
a
is
lot
his
of
choice.
love for what the franchise used to be. And the fact that in Assassin's Creed Valhalla, they do call back to so much of what I love from the previous games, that is something that did
It is
really
in my
hit
blood.
for me
It is what I am
at
for.
the time. Now, as time has gone on, you kind of
He's a
realize that
shaman.
a lot of what
He's
they
over on
do
the second
there
level.
does come off as a bit
Give him a good
hollow,
show
especially
and he'll set you
considering
on the
the
path.
fact that almost nothing that relates to previous games within the course of this game
You too,
ends up actually
Shepard.
having an effect on the base
How many
narrative
times have
of
you
the
stepped in a
game,
mess for
where
your crew?
in the main story of this game, revolving around Eivor and Sigurd, that's almost its own independent story. In the character of
I have
Eivor,
a
even though I
Krogan
do
on my
think she
crew.
is a
He
solo
has
character,
same
she
same
knows
thing.
nothing
God damn
about
it.
what is going on with all these things that
He'll
do
live or
call
die
back
by his
to
own
the
actions.
previous entries in the series, with the stuff with the Isu, with the Assassins, with the
Good to
Templars.
see you, Rex.
All these things just go
Sure you
over
can't
her
come
head
with us?
over the course of this
Wish I
game.
could.
And because that, it makes
But I need to keep
these
these
two
short-sighted
sections
feelings in
of the
line.
game like this
Hunt
part of the
well,
game that
Shepard.
is very much a callback to the previous entries in the series, and this story with Eivor and Sigurd and this Viking element of the game, it makes them feel like two very, very separate parts of one package. Again, it does some things that are really great. Again, there are callbacks in this game that blew my mind at the time, and I still love them now. I mean, I talked about it extensively in my spoiler review that I did immediately after the game came out, and I'm still very happy with a lot of the things that they added to this
Never
game
thought I'd
to
miss the tank.
connect it to
Put
previous
down some
games in the
real-
series. But when we're looking at it as its own entry, it's like it is still not what Assassin's Creed used to be and what I want Assassin's Creed to be. But again, the high highs that I had with this game are very tough to deny. Like, while I do have so many issues with this game now, it's like it's not enough to put it much lower on the list because of just how the high highs of this game are the highest this franchise has had in a while. So for me, I still felt justified in putting it here at number 5. Now number 4, we're on to a game from a series that I had never
Okay,
really
I
had
just
too much
wanna look
experience with
this
until
up.
very recently, where in the process of making this video, I decided, you know what, let's go back and play all of the games in this series so that I can play this game, and that game is Yakuza Like a Dragon. So as I said, I did play Yakuza's 0 through 6 before playing Like a Dragon here, and I decided I am going to be making that a series that I do down the road where I will be talking about my experience playing those games. So there will be an individual video on Like a Dragon at some point down the road. As of right now here, obviously it's at number 4. I really like this game. I really like Yakuza Like a Dragon. While it is a radical departure from the previous Yakuza games, which were these like beat-em-up games that focus around Kiryu, and this being a soft reboot here,
Any idea
with us
where I
playing
can find
as
a
Ichiban
bunch of
Kasuga, and this
Yeah,
turning it
I
into
could
a
make
turn-based
one. Give me 3
RPG
days
system.
and a barrel
Despite
of
this radical
Wincall.
departure, it
The one
works
they lost is
very,
probably
very
still out in
well.
the
I think
field.
Kasuga
It's too much to
is a
expect
great
them to
character,
collect it and
great new
bring the
character
damn
to lead
thing
the franchise
back.
moving forward. We have a really
I've never seen a
solid
broken mechanic
turn-based
before.
combat system
What?
here that,
You think
while
we
it is
kidnap
this really
Quarians and make
over-the-top
them do the hard
wacky
work?
combat system, it does have
Now
some
you
dumb
know
things
we
in it,
don't.
like burping out fire. It's like, it
going
works
out into
within
the
the course
field.
of this game.
If I see a
And that's
combustion
something that is so
manifold, I'll bring
unique
it
about the
back with me.
Yakuza series,
If you
that's
did, it
able
would
to
save me a
mix
lot of
these
work.
really
Maybe
wacky,
bring back my
over-the-top
sunny
moments with
disposition.
a really well-made, really
Let me get out
overly
of your way.
serious crime
Don't do me any
drama, and
favors.
it again works very well here. And I do think something that also works very well within Like a Dragon here is the fact that this is an origin story for Kasuga, and I do think the background that we get from him in this game really makes you attached to the character and also develops him in a really fun way. I mean, like a Dragon here is a really great reboot for the Yakuza series. However, I do have a couple knocks for the game. I think the biggest one that really knocked it a bit down the list for me is that there were a couple sections where you are forced to grind. I mean, there is some grinding in this game, which obviously is a typical trope within RPGs, but still a thing that I don't enjoy. And to be honest, again, in most modern RPGs, they've kind of taken away the need to grind in games. I mean, there was never a point in like Persona 5 where I felt like I needed to go and grind. There's never a point in like The Witcher 3 where I felt like I needed to grind. There's never a point in
I didn't know you could do that.
that I felt like I needed to grind. And I feel like because of that in Yakuza Like a Dragon here, where there were points where I did need to grind, where I did need to go to these dungeons and fight a whole bunch of enemies to level up, it's like that is a minor knock for me that keeps it off of the top 3 here, but it is still a great game with a great story, a great main character, a great combat system. It really is a really great game, and because of that, it does land at number 4 here. Now number 3, and I cannot believe that this game is not higher on this list. There was a point where I had this game at number 1. I definitely considered putting this game at number 1 at the time that I was replaying the game. However, since then, it's not really that my opinion of this game has gone down. It's more so the opinion of the other 2 games are just higher. So right here at number 3, we do have Final Fantasy VII Remake, which is great. I mean, it is a fantastic remake of Final Fantasy VII. What they were able to do with this game were making it one of the events of the original game while also deviating from it. The designers of the While also modernizing the gameplay in the way that it does. It's really incredible what they were able to do here with Final Fantasy VII Remake, even though it's only like the first third of the original game. What they were able to do here with the characters from Final Fantasy VII, with the world of Final Fantasy VII, being able to expand upon all of that is incredible. And it is something that when replaying it, again, my opinion of the game shot up once again. Like I had it at number 1 for a while. It's at number 3, largely because I just feel like the other games are better. I mean, the one main sticking point for me of Final Fantasy VII Remake,
not exactly what
the
I would
biggest
call
knock
effective
I have for the
academic
game
peer review
is that I do feel like there are sections in the game that do come off as massive filler. There are sections of the game that I just don't enjoy, particularly in the middle section of the game. I mean, from the point that you go on your adventures with Aerith and try to rescue Tifa and get into the sewers and you have the graveyard, and that section is just so boring to me. Like, I really just don't enjoy that section of the game. And that is the main reason why this does get bumped down a bit. Again, I have so much respect for a lot of the things that this game does. This game is still incredible. I mean, it's one of my favorite games of the generation. It's up there in one of my favorite games of all time. I'm definitely top 20. Like, I do really love this game, and I think this really just shows how good of a year the year of 2020 was, where the main thing separating...
Okay, so that's the Chief Scout, so that starts the Morden.
Like, they're all fantastic games, but at the end of the day, for me, the knocks I have for Final Fantasy VII Remake do knock it down to number 3. Now we're moving on to number 2. The top 2 here, one of them I expected, the other one was a massive surprise. However, by the end of the process of playing the games of 2020, I was pretty solid in what number 1 was going to be. So at number 2, I do have 13 Sentinels Aegis Rim, which is a game that I don't feel like many people have played. This game caught me completely off guard. I had never heard of this game until the Game Awards, where this did get nominated for Best Narrative, and I decided to look into it, bought the game, played it, and absolutely adored it. What this game is able to do in the form of a 2D side-scrolling adventure game mixed in with like real-time strategy elements is really incredible. The type of story that this game tells is on a scale that you rarely see within gaming, and is on the same scale of some of my all-time favorite narratives within gaming. I mean, we have stories like Red Dead Redemption, we have stories like Persona 5, we have stories like The Witcher 3 that are on a really massive scale, and 13 Sentinels is up there. Again, the scale of this game's story is insane, especially considering it is contained within one single package. And really, from a narrative perspective, it really did hit me very similar in a way that Persona 5 did. This game's story is incredible. I mean, the way it is able to tell its story is in a very unique way, where the entire game is told in a very non-linear way, where you are playing as these 13 characters at different points within the timeline, and you slowly piece together what is really going on within this world and how each of these characters are connected. It's really insane what they are able to do here with this story, how complex it is, the fact that you need this timeline that is in-game to keep track of when all of these events are occurring and to figure out what is really going on. It is really, really great. I really do love 13 Sentinels, it really hit me in a way that really caught me off guard. I really did not expect to love this game as much as I did, but I did. And again, like for me, it is a debate between this and Final Fantasy VII Remake. I do think Final Fantasy VII Remake is probably the technically better game. I mean, like I think at least in terms of actual gameplay, I mean, I think the gameplay itself, Final Fantasy VII, is better. But for me, 13 Sentinels, while I mean, there are sections that do feel unnecessary, there was never a point when playing it that I felt like it was dragging. I never felt like I was bored by what was going on. Like, I mean, yes, there are certain storylines that are better than others, but I still enjoyed it the entire way through. I was left enthralled the entire way through of what is going on here, trying to piece everything together, and that was so much fun for me. So for me, I did land 13 Sentinels, Aegis Rim here at number 2. And now at number 1. At number 1 here, I said this at the time the game came out, that this was going to be number 1. Then I did a PS4 exclusive ranking where I had this game at number 1. However, since then, my opinion of the game dropped, but then I replayed the game recently for the 1-year anniversary of the game and did a retrospective, and through that, it's back at number 1 here. It is The Last of Us Part 2. I mean, it's so tough for me to assess this game unbiasedly.
I think we'll just end
very attached to the
here, I think.
The first
Can we
Last
talk
of
to these
Us
guys?
is debatably my favorite game of all time. I mean, it's up there. It's a story that really hit me in many ways that you rarely see in gaming, and I was so attached to the characters of Joel and Ellie, and to see their continuation here in The Last of Us Part 2 in a way that I wasn't expecting, but also in a way that I wanted, was such a satisfying thing for me. Again, it is tough to talk about this game without talking spoilers.
For now, thanks for watching.
I talk about this so much more